Well, Kion, I guess you got a deadly hand job, huh? Thank you to our $5 patrons, Sinners Lancelot and Argoon. And big thank you to our $25 patron, the Mr. Greed. Now, before we have this breakdown / review of 4 Nights of the Apocalypse, please do me a favor and leave your own thoughts on the chapter in the comment section down below. Leave a like and subscribe if you haven't already. Also, make sure to hit that little notification bell so you don't miss out on any videos that come to the channel. Also, I do have a Patreon down below where you can support me for as low as $1 a month. Any support would be appreciated. Now, let's get into it. What's up, guys? I got the pencil here, and here we are to break down the poll from last week. Gotcha there, didn't I? However, let's get into it. So, last week I asked y'all, how do you think this chapter is going to go with the ending of last chapter? Obviously, we were in quite a tense situation, and the Prince of Leonis has shown up to save the day. So I asked what y'all think was going to happen. And then we're 5 options, and with 153 votes, we have our results. So, we have the top option of all, which got 51% of the votes. Everything is chalked up to a misunderstanding, and it's done. Now, notably, I hated this option, though I knew it would be an option, because a lot of mangaka would do that. I hate to say it, especially with the way that Percival has been written up to this point. I could definitely see how it could have just ended, and we could have just progressed from here. Notably, I didn't want that. But however, we had a second option that came in, unfortunately, last place, which was Percy snaps and attacks the group, and Tristan allows it. This was one I didn't necessarily expect too much, mainly because Tristan didn't seem like the kind of dude that would let his own people go, and this is called the Tristan Squad, so I'm assuming these were his friends, so I kind of threw that as a trick option, trying to see what the consensus was, and about 5% of y'all went for it, which is a decent amount. Then, of course, our third option was Percy snaps and attacks, but Tristan curb stomps him. Now, this one was something I was kind of looking for, but not entirely. Notably, I do like the dynamic that Percy is way out of his league, right? Like, the idea that Percy is extremely powerful up to this point, but in terms of, like, your real high tiers, quote-unquote, in terms of the old verse and some high tiers that came out of the old verse, like your Sin Kids, like your reincarnations, like your currently existing characters, they would surpass Percy. So I'm not shocked that this got 21% of the vote, considering that is the most likely option. Considering what would happen if Percy went berserk on someone like Lancelot, the curb stomp would be pretty apparent. There wouldn't be much of a fight there, so it would make sense. And you can kind of argue that's how it went this chapter, but it goes a little bit differently, and it's an option I didn't even think to include. It kind of went in an unseen option, which was the 2 fight, and they're actually kind of even. But then we go on to see the next option with 13% was Percy and Tristan fight, but Lance stops them. I was really hoping for this just because a lot of people guessed it in the comment section. They were like, we all wanted to see what would happen if Percy and Lance went to, well, not Percy and Lance. I messed up their names, oh lord. Tristan and Lancelot met up again after all this time and were like, let's throw hands. Just like their parents did. I don't know. We were all looking for that nostalgia. That would have been cool. And then, of course, the final one with 10% of the vote was Percy and Tristan fight, but Meliodas stops them. Notably, it kind of is wild that Meliodas didn't notice any of this, especially with his level of sensory ability. Like, he's obviously beyond Mom Speed, who can sense people from miles upon miles away. You're telling me Meliodas didn't even think to rush over and interfere with this situation when 2 of his knights, including his own son, are throwing hands? Maybe he was just watching. I wouldn't be shocked if by next chapter he appears on the top of a building and was like, pretty neat. However, those are the results of the poll. So don't be shocked. Don't be surprised when tomorrow another poll drops and you can vote in it, please. I appreciate this. This is a good way to get a community consensus. It's a good way to see how we think it's going. These are going to be good relics to look back on once we are deeper and deeper into the 4-night story. However, enough of that. Let's get into the chapter itself. So we open up and we see, well, sorry, allow me. What's up, guys? I love Pencil, and here we are to review chapter 53 of 4 Nights of the Apocalypse, which is known as Tristan. And not gonna lie, coloring does Tristan dirty. Like, I'm not sure if that was just, is it me or am I not right? Like, Tristan at the end of last chapter looked sauced, dripped out. Like, the design was insane, but for some reason the gold and the blue don't work with me. Like, I guess the silver armor and his silver hair aren't working for me. I mean, the heterochromia is fine. It's just I don't think those, like, none of this outfit feels complimentary. And who knows, maybe because of the background too. The only detail that I do like on Tristan here is the earring that's his mom's. I think that's cool that she passed that down to him and that he now wears it, probably in honor of her. And I wonder, nah, because that would have to be enchanted, and the only enchanter we know is like Merlin. And who knows, Gother may have enchanted it, but I don't think it's just an earring that he wears for his mom's sake. I'm wondering, I think the outfits will look better if they aren't filled with such contrasting color. I don't know. I think the cyan that Nakuba went with, along with this particular shade of yellow, it just doesn't complement each other very well. Like, that's my only thing. The armor looks fine. Like, the outfit as a whole in black and white still looks great. In fact, when we see it later on in the chapter in just black and white, I think Tristan looks absolutely fine. He looks great, in fact. I think it's just the coloring here that's making me like, yeah, I'm not exactly rocking with it too much. However, enough of that. Let us hop into the chapter itself. So we open up. We get to see that we're continuing right where we left off. Tristan is walking up. And that's the thing, right? I mean, last week's chapter ended at a pretty appropriate moment with Tristan's debut. But once again, Nakuba has these weird things where I feel like he wants to write longer chapters, but he like gets into the groove of writing a longer chapter. Then his editor's like, oh, by the way, you know this is due tomorrow, right? And he's like, oh, okay. And then he slices it in half. Because this is what happens at the end of this chapter, too. At least that's what it feels like. But then we get to see that Tristan, as he's strolling up, they notice that, hey, Tristan didn't report back in, but since he's back, that means he must have found one of the Knights of Prophecy. However, the interesting thing is the Knight of Prophecy is not with Tristan. And notably, Tristan even acknowledges this by saying that can wait till later. So it's entirely possible that Tristan dropped off the Knight of Prophecy somewhere else before coming here, which is interesting. I wonder why. I mean, Meliodas, even when suppressed, should be sensible, right? Like, he, by a long shot, even with his true magic gone, should have a base power so high that you would immediately want to fly over. And as we can see in this chapter, Tristan can fly. So, I don't know. I was a little bit sussy that you didn't go straight there. No, I'm kidding. But we get to see that Tristan is kind of wondering why there are bodies on the ground, dragon handled, chilling there on the floor, and an ominous dark spear on a child's head. And we see Kion keeping up the lie. And like, no, Kion, I tried to defend you, bro. I really did. Not defend you. Because to be fair, I did acknowledge the fact that you were a menace from day one. Let me not put disrespect on your name, Kion. I figured that you were on that demon timing. Let's be real. I figured that. However, it's kind of shocking to me that you're really pushing it, right? Like, I get it to a degree. Because I'm just confident you're a traitor now. But at the same time, jeez. And then Tristan, you don't ask any questions? Like, he asked the question. So let me get into that in a second. But Kion is essentially still trying to get Percival killed by someone who can kill him, in terms of Tristan, by saying, hey, look, Nightman, he has a piece of the Coffin of Eternal Darkness. He obviously has to be evil. There you go. And then we get to see Nakuba, like, once again, Nakuba simultaneously has made this series more lighthearted and at the same time darker than the last series ever was. And I mean that twofold, right? Like, in the same series where we can have Percival declaring on multiple occasions that he has to go lay a loaf, we can have the image of 3 of our 4 main characters up to this point lying half dead on the ground while breathing and gasping for air because their life is being drained away from them every second they're there. Like, legitimately, what the heck? I don't... Nakuba, like, I made a video called Jujutsu Kaisen Has No Fear. Check that out, by the way. But I think I need to make a 4 Nights Has No Fear. Because Nakuba, I think the reason it hits so much harder is, one, because these are kids, right? Like, these are 16-year-olds. It hurts to see more than Meliodas getting, like, his arm chopped off because Meliodas is a 3,000-year-old demon. We knew that up to that point. Meanwhile, seeing, like, these real, like, kids we know are innocent too, right? Like, this only works. Like, say we got the flip perspective, who knows? And that's the great thing, right? Say we followed the journey of Tristan's group up to this point, then who knows? Maybe we would be completely on their side. Maybe last week's chapter, me wouldn't be so hard on them for being so arrogant and, like, just attacking these people. But at the moment, due to the buildup we have here, I'm staring at the image of Nasi's holding his stomach that he got maced, and I'm trying to not... Ooh, I'm sorry, I literally couldn't even think of the words. And then we get to see that Tristan... Interesting. So he can't perceive nor sense the self itself, but based on Nasian's breathing and the way that he's trying to talk, but only his lips are flapping, he's able to tell that Kion has been using a sylph. So he does know that. It's interesting. Because notably, it seems like Kion's own people don't even know he can do that. Because they didn't ask any questions or tell Kion to, hey, let him speak. Like, they didn't do any of that when Percival's ability to speak randomly went away. So Tristan knows of sylphs, but the rest of his group doesn't. Only Kion does. And notably, when he's ordered to remove the sylph at once, Kion looks disheartened, to say the least. And he goes, okay. And he lets the sylph go away back to its stone form. And I'm assuming that's what it is, right? I guess the sylph is like contained within the stone. So maybe Kion is essentially a summoner type. And then we get to see that with the ability to breathe again, they are a group that's already in the midst of dying, is coughing up blood, being confused, and they can't even speak, showing how much damage Isold did to them, which is insane. And as Tristan very clearly says, this is going way too far. Like, that's the thing, right? I need backstory on these characters because I'm trying to... Like I said, new generation would act like this. Like, I wouldn't be shocked if Season 1 Gila acted like this before her heel turn. I wouldn't be shocked if Season 1 Jericho acted like this before her heel turn. But, like, characters like Hauser and Gilthunder, unless Gilthunder, once again, was pre his heel turn while Margaret was still in danger, they would have been like, hey, maybe we shouldn't assault these other children. like, none of these people look like threats, but you essentially nigh on executed them. And we see that Tristan apparently... So see, it makes me wonder, what is the stream of information looking like? Because according to Tristan, I had word just the other day that the dragon fragment was seized by an ally. So that means Tristan's communication system is more updated for him, even though he's out of Britannia, or no, out of Leonis. Meanwhile, apparently Tristan's platoon's communications are behind, even though they're in Leonis. I'm kind of a little bit confused. The only way I could justify that, right? Because if he said word of the other day, Lancelot may have communicated with him. Maybe he said, hey, we recovered a piece of the Coffin of Eternal Darkness. Don't worry, I'm going to keep an eye on it. Then I could see that, because that's the best way. Because I don't think the only other person who could have done that, and it could explain, but no, Gilther would broadcast it straight to Meliodas. You got to think about that, because he knew, Meliodas knew, I'm pretty sure, based off his reaction to seeing it. So Meliodas, why wouldn't you relay that information? So I can't even blame it. It's just Meliodas was once again keeping secrets. And once again, let me defend Meliodas, all right? Because y'all were getting on Meliodas for being like, why are you bothering Lance for being so secretive when Meliodas was secretive? Meliodas was secretive because if he wasn't, the love of his life would have died for what, the 108th time? Meliodas has been through a lot of Elizabeths, and the whole pretense of his secrecy was based on that. The moment the cat was out of the bag and he had no reason to hide anymore, he said everything. He told the whole plot, legitimately. He relayed it instantly. So don't get on Meliodas for being secretive. Lance was being secretive just to be mean. Like, legitimately. He could have just straight up told Percy, hey, yo, let me live with you real quick. Spit the whole plot out. Meanwhile, Meliodas had a reason, so I'm gonna get on Lance for that. However, of course, we get to see that Kion goes to mock Percival, right? And notably, like, Kion, you ain't making yourself look any better. Like, you're doing this in front of people. There are witnesses. Okay, notably, Isold and Jade are looking at him, and Tristan's walking by, likely to go on and heal the others. But meanwhile, Kion falls behind him and says, didn't quite get you, did I? Too bad. Looks like you're luckier than I thought. So, I mean, if Kion turns out to just be... I wish I could say rude or bad. Nah, if he just turns out to be a terrible individual, darn. Like, he's playing that part well. Like, I guess Kion would just have murderous intent. Obviously, the only other reason he would go so hard on this individual is if he was working for Arthur, right? Like, we can't be the only ones saying, but at the same time, it feels too obvious. Then again, like, if with hindsight, and of course hindsight is 2020, Sin being Lance seems pretty obvious. But at the same time, like, I almost want to walk in and knock up his trap here, because it seems like, just like with Sin, he's laying out details. He's like, hey, Look at this dude. He's attacking without remorse. Look at this dude. He's manipulating his friends. Look at this dude. He's using magic. That's strange. Look at this dude. He's being mean to Percival after he almost got him killed along with all of his friends before asking questions. Look at this dude. He's mocking Percival. Like, all of that sounds like, oh, whoop-de-dee. He's evil, working for Arthur. And that's not the end of it. But then we get to see, interestingly enough, leaving off the evil Kion plot for now, Percival, this is very interesting, right? Because there are questions to what Percival is. And notably, last time I brought up despair magic and how that could be like the counterpart to his hope magic. And that is where the idea that he could save or destroy the world comes in. And this chapter all but confirms it, because we get to see that inside Percival's head, inside the darkness, he's thinking, I'm all alone again. Donnie, Nasians, and you took them all away from me. And he's thinking that, and I guess within the darkness, he's muttering something in that strange language. And something even more interesting pops up later. Like, this chapter is, whew. But we get to see that Percival snaps up, and he snatches Kion's arm. And notably, Kion is wearing a glove. His hand is not directly exposed through that sleeve. It's exposed through the other one. And regardless of that, Kion seizes up, not just because his arm is grabbed, but he then screams. And then he jerks back away from Percival. Isolde and Tristan are looking on, like, wait, what the heck is going on? And then we get to see Percival is standing there, arms still up, and he has the darkness still around his head and darkness radiating around him. And we get to see that Kion is screaming, and he's ripping off his gloves, declaring that his arm, something about his arm, and then with the glove falling to the ground, Tristan eyeing it, and then Jade and Isolde looking on, we get to see that the life in Isolde's arm has been drained completely away. Well, not completely, he's still moving it, but the arm, as he screams in agony, is essentially, as they say, mummified. And Percival's just standing there. Now, notably, I wonder how, like, because it seems like, unlike with every other spell with every other power that Percy has, he doesn't invoke any incantations. He just does them. Like, when Percy spawned his magic, he didn't say a magical word. His magic just awoke. When Percy did all this, he never, whether it be healing, flying, sword creation, weapon creation, regeneration, coming back to life, there were never any magical spells. His magic pretty much acted autonomously. But for the first time we get to hear Percy likely cast a spell, it creates this. And I wonder if this draining of vitality is almost like a necessity or simply a defense mechanism. Because we see that Kion's arm is essentially completely mummified, and Isolde goes on to ask, did you do that? Answer me. And we see that, but like, lady, once again, I can't be, like, maybe I am. I've been reading the comments. I have been reading the comments. I've been a bit slow to respond because I got busy recently. But still, I'm gonna catch up sometime this week. And I've been reading the comments as they pop up. But I feel like the general consensus is that this group is just stupid. And I'm glad I'm not alone in that. Like, this group just feels like idiots. Like, oh, did you just do that? Why did you do that? Oh, how could you harm him? Because you just killed all his friends. Like, legitimately, you tried to kill him. You've blocked out all his sight and tried to suffocate him. And then you beat the life out of all of his friends and then suffocate them and take away their ability to speak. So I feel like this is just payback and retribution, right? Like, I'm sorry, Kion. You got what you asked for. Like, in terms of payback, that's light. Like Percy's better than me. You wouldn't have lost the arm. You would have lost everything. I'm kidding. I can't go that far. Well, I don't know though, because like in Percival's perspective, all his friends are dead. He got pushed to the edge. It's not his fault. Like, I can't even, like, I would get mad at Percy, but I can't knock his hustle right now. And I love how Jade, like, he's told by Isolde to remove the darkness around his head, which is confirmed to be darkness. Interesting. So humans can wield the elements of other races. And that's, to be fair, that is a thing. We saw humans wield some aspect of the other races, but never to this degree that's just purely called darkness. But Jade goes to remove the darkness from his head, and then But before he can do that, he raises his hand. But before he can get his hand all the way up, mid-motion, Percy blitzes him and then grabs his throat. Meaning, Jade would have died. Like no lie. And I'm assuming, right? Because notably, Percy has a grip. He has a direct grip on his throat. So I believe this magic that he used, that thing we saw in the background of his thought process, that was a spell he muttered in the darkness. So unlike his other magic, which is conditional, right? If A equals B, C will happen. But in this case, it seems to be if conditional plus an activator. So you can put two things in one area, and while usually that would produce something else with Percy's magic automatically, now he needs to activate it. Because you can see the fold lines on Jade's throat when Percy grabs him. Meaning that if it was an auto activation, Jade would have lost his neck. But luckily enough, Tristan, well, I don't know. Jade can... Now that I think about it, like, I like Kion. The rest of the group can go, though. And I know that's like, but Pencil, he's a traitor. What do you mean? I'm like, a little traitor never hurt nobody. I mean, hurt a lot of people, but still. In the sense of which character I like the most, it's Jade. It's not Jade. It's Kion. And I don't like Isolde at all. So she can go. But of course, Tristan, not about to let his homies die or suffer anymore, comes in with the kick. And once again, it's cool. Like, I do like his design in black and white. It's just the coloring did him so dirty. And I will admit, once again, I think overall he's just drippier than Lance. Well, no, in color, Lance is drippier. I like the sleeveless hoodie and the pants. It's weird to say, it's very fairy-like. Like it captures both sides of him very clearly. Like the sleeveless baggy pants and no, the baggy pants really and the sleeveless arms, that's the human side of him. That's the Bond side of him coming through, along with the coloring, right? Meanwhile, in terms of the hoodie design, I literally bet if he didn't make that for himself, Uncle King made it for him, right? Because that's what Uncle King loves to do. So I wouldn't be shocked if Lance got that, and that represents his fairy side more. Meanwhile, Tristan, he's drippy, but he's just drippy and like general Leonis drip. Like none of this conveys what he is, which is, I mean, he conveys that it's human, and notably he's what? I forget what the ratio of goddess that Elizabeth was, but so just for clarity's sake, we'll say Elizabeth was 50-50. So it does clarify a lot of his humanness, but he's only 25% human, which is actually, if we're following that assumption, he may be more goddess than human. I forget, but notably, he doesn't necessarily portray what he majorly is. Tristan, my boy, you're a demon. Like not even in the you on demon time. Like just generally, that's your 50% of your biological makeup. I'm kind of shocked that you don't display more of that. I mean, then again, demons are portrayed negatively because of the Holy War, so maybe that's with purpose. But we get to see that Percy is, as he's roaring into the sky after Tristan kicked him, Percy is still muttering spells in that strange language. And Tristan, like, is Tristan just as stupid as this group? Like, they really are birds of a feather flock together, I guess. Because Tristan, maybe, if you did remove the darkness from this boy's head, he could tell you what is happening. And actually, hold on, wait a minute. You don't know who this boy is yet. Jade, speak to me. It's too dangerous to take the darkness off. Okay, so it looks like Jade is still around. Like, the magic may have activated a little bit, or it's just the tight grip that he had on his throat that caused him to do that. But Tristan, like, I'm glad you two fight. I'm not going to lie. I'm glad you two throw hands. That's what I wanted. But Tristan, this whole situation could have been solved if you just told Jade to remove the darkness and you see who it is. And maybe heal his friends so they can speak and actually testify for themselves rather than you're going to kill the man. Because obviously he's not in a conversational mood. He just tried to kill your homeboy. I wonder if maybe because he's blind and thinks his friends are dead. But of course, Tristan and that is cool, right? There are some things like if you're going to have a character that flies or can grow wings, it always is cool to see them not just like take off from the ground, but actually build momentum in through a jump. Because he jumps high into the sky. But then we get to see that Donnie notes something weird, bird wings, and from Tristan's takeoff, we get to see that he has full-on hefty goddess wings. And it is very, very cool to see. Though, I guess Tristan's arc, right, is going to be delving more into his demon side, right? Or maybe that's his full power. and we just haven't had reason to see it yet. Maybe Tristan is suppressed here, because notably we see him use some of his demon side later. It's just that he seems very biased towards his goddess side. I wonder if that's a Meliodas thing. Maybe Meliodas is like, I mean, yeah, Uncle Zeldris is cool. The rest of us, though, we ain't really rocking with them. Actually, Goth is cool too, but him and Dolcemonte, they're in their own village. That's about it. You ain't never gonna see them anyway. So go ahead, become a full goddess or something. Because notably, he is spamming his goddess abilities. And yo, Tristan, why don't you just like, you pulling up here with your hand on your blade after you just kicked him in the stomach is not the best time to ask him, who are you? Like, Tristan, if you were fast enough to kick him away like that, why didn't you just grab him and move him away from your friend and, like, have a conversation? I'm not sure if the darkness is tangible on his head. But wait, you can manipulate darkness. Like, Tristan, no, but you specifically told Jade to not remove the darkness. I was about to say, just blast the darkness off of his head with some of your light magic. But of course, another interesting thing is here. And notably, who knows, maybe Meliodas is like a lot of foreign dads. Maybe he just doesn't teach the native language to his kid for some reason, even though it would be kind of beneficial and a good part of their culture. Because according to Tristan, now there's two ways this could go, right? This is demon tongue, and that could lead into one theory that I'm going to talk about of what Tristan is and why he seems to have such a wide variety of abilities and so on and so forth along with the timing. Or it could just be demon tongue and Tristan just didn't learn it, so he doesn't know what he's saying. But we actually get translations for what Percy's saying this time. And Tristan, you're an idiot. Why would the person who you know is an ally who just got Dragon Handle come in and be attacking your people in Leonis if he's an ally? Tristan's stupid, dog. Like, I hate to say it, as much as I think Tristan's outfit looks better, Lance is infinitely better already. And let me get to see. But the thing is, what I was saying essentially is that Tristan does not recognize what language Percy is speaking. Meaning that if he... I'll go into it later. Just note that Tristan, 50% demon, doesn't know what language Percy's speaking. It can go two ways. But then we get to see that Percy mutters, "Vaz Zigra." And apparently, this magic, as Tristan describes it, is wild. It's pulsing like a heartbeat. So this magic seems non-native. Well, it could be native. It's just that it's very powerful to the point where Tristan isn't exactly confident in what it is, right? Like he's saying, it's throbbing, it's crazy, it's almighty, if you will. Then we get to see Tristan, he closes his eye and then flashes with an arc. And this thing's massive. And once again, it just goes to show how powerful. Oh, wow. Did he split the clouds? Is that a feat? Can we count that? Yo, oh, my cock was out there. Can we count? Nah, I don't think so. I don't think. Because of distance and stuff. But it is cool. Ooh, and now that I think about it. Oh, my. I'm sorry. Percy is flying free form. I think every other time he's flown, he's had his magic surrounding him. But now he's just flying in the air. I'm not sure if that's because of the... Nah, it can't be because of the cape, because the cape is blowing in the wind. So it seems like, for some reason, Percy, even though he's not showing his magic, he doesn't have the Dragon Ball aura out. He is able to fly, which is interesting. But of course, with Twinkling Star, like, maybe Tristan judged it. Like, maybe okay, this is the level of power that you have. I will use an appropriate level of power to attack you, and I know you'll survive it. My main goal is to purge the darkness in you. But, like, Twinkling Star is such a big, admittedly interesting attack that seems to have so much power behind it that, Tristan, were you trying to kill him? Like, what's with you and your group not listening to people and just trying to kill potential assets? Like, if I don't know, that seems like it would kill somebody. But of course, Percival essentially just face tanks it. And notably, even the darkness on Percival's head doesn't disperse, even though arc particles are meant to... That's the weird thing, though, right? Because arc particles, being light particles, are meant to break down the darkness of the demon clan. However, this darkness that's around Percival's head, despite getting hit with an extremely strong arc blast, or at least what seems to be an arc blast, it isn't doing anything. Like, the darkness doesn't even budge, which is interesting. And it seems like the darkness seems to have some tangibility, too, because Percival actually manages to perform a headbutt. And notably, Tristan lowers his hand and he's like, so you're not a demon. And I guess but Tristan, if he was a demon, you would have killed him. And I wonder if this chapter has me asking so many questions, but I wonder if Tristan has any like byproducts, right? Or like negative side effects, or if his body's perfectly made for it, because that's just how he is. Because notably, being more demon than he is human and or goddess, wielding arc magic in such close vicinity should jack him up. I know like stronger goddesses and demons, well no, stronger demons can ignore it essentially, but still, that kind of internal conflict has got to be interesting. I wonder what his biology is like. But then, of course, we get to see post headbutt as Percival lunges into. I don't know what he's going to do. I think his hands are back, so maybe he was going to lunge in with the hands. But Tristan does definitively blitz him using a blade of light and a blade of darkness. So I wonder if he doesn't actually have swords, he just has hilts, or if he. Nah, that wouldn't make sense because he would want to enhance his magic with. But then again, darkness, at least by the logic of Seven Deadly Sins, isn't magic. That's the weird thing. So maybe this is a dark spell or something, or a sword spell that uses darkness, because it forms. So, but maybe it just doesn't get a weapon hand. Maybe that is just a sort of pure darkness. But regardless, Tristan does blitz the life out of Percival, slice a whole X in his chest. Ironically enough, almost exactly like what is with y'all people and slashing X's into people's chests. That's pretty much exactly what Ironside did. And then we get to see that Percy lands, but notably, he not only lands, but he lands on his feet despite going down head first, reels back, and is pulsing with energy. And the next thing he says is, Yog. And I wonder what that means. Is his body reacting to the darkness and the blade, or is it just reacting to the damage? Because we see when Percival actually goes to recover, like instead of, you know how when Percival typically gets damaged, he immediately starts healing. Instead of healing, it's almost like his body has an allergic reaction to what just hit him. Like, you see that as the ground crumbles around him and as he screams Yog, he's sparking. It's a very weird reaction, right? Like, notably, I wouldn't even say something's ripping out of him. It seems like his body is literally having like an allergic reaction where it's like destabilizing due to the fact that it was hit. And I wonder if that's just because it was hit, or it's because it was hit by darkness specifically. And the reason I bring that up is because notably, when we see Percival get, I guess him going, like, with what Tristan says later, it's kind of shocking that Twinkling Star was meant to be like a subduing attack when it was so humongous. But Tristan's reaction, I will eternally mess up their name. Percival's reaction to Twinkling Star isn't necessarily like spazzing out, but the moment he got double X'd by the light and dark blade, he starts to literally like spark and shake and like destabilize, especially in his upper body. And it could be him hypothetically just writhing with pain, but it's a very particular reaction that he literally starts like, it looks like he's destabilizing. And it's interesting that happened after he was hit with a darkness attack. And I'll go into wide a bit. I meant to make a whole theory video on the side. You know, I'm not necessarily one for theory videos, because usually I'm wrong. But in actuality, like, I'm actually kind of intrigued with what that boy Percival is, especially considering the time frames of some things. We get to see that as Tristan lands, once Percy has restabilized in the crumbling ground, Isolde is like, yo, let's hook up, let's jump him. And we see that Tristan, he's actually considering it. And like, once again, I wonder how thoroughly angry, I mean, to be fair, they don't know Tristan. Stop it. They don't know Percival can self-revive, so if they killed him, it likely wouldn't matter too much, especially in this state right now. He can probably auto-revive right here, right now, probably by stealing the life force of whatever kills him. But in the same breath, like, say they killed him, and Percival stayed dead, and Meliodas came across his corpse. I'd knock some sense into my kid and his whole squad. I'd probably execute his whole squad, not gonna lie. But in actuality, it's kind of crazy how there's no thought. Like, and to be fair, Tristan, I get why your own people would follow their lead, because they don't seem too bright, I will admit. Outside of Kion himself, who obviously is on a murder kick, Jade and Isolde seem very emotionally driven and follow your friends types. Like, they don't seem to think too much. So I get why they are so adamant about killing this man. But as you very clearly have shown, you can blitz Percival. Like, at best, he got one hit off on you, And even then, you just casually backflipped into it and then proceeded to draw your blades and blitz him before he could really react. Like, why don't you just subdue him? Like, notably, he says, I hate needless bloodshed. Wait, no, I hate to shed needless blood, but I may not have a choice. Meaning, instead of giving Percival a chance to speak or, like, calm down, he was just gonna kill him. Like, legitimately, if the group didn't get back up and save Percy here, Tristan likely would have activated his... I don't know, he seems so heavily biased towards his goddess side. I wonder if he even would use Demon Mark. But, like, he could have hypothetically gone Demon Mark or fully activated his goddess eyes and executed Percival without asking any questions. Because there's an assumption that he's a knight of Arthur. I know, he just, mummified... he mummified Kion's arm. But to be fair, based off how Kion was acting, you yourself admit that this is going too far. Maybe you should just subdue him, especially since there seems to be such a large gap in power. Like I said in the poll review, this isn't necessarily a curb stomp in Tristan's favor, but Tristan takes no damage. Meanwhile, he absolutely annihilates Percival here. So, I don't know, Tristan, you're very much leaping to conclusions off a situation that you yourself admit was a little bit too quick to jump on. I'm kind of shocked that you're down for it. And of course, I'm not shocked that Kion's down for it, because notably, once again, like I said, Kion is being extra sus, because after all of this, he's still demanding that hurry, strike him down, come on now, meaning he really wants Percival dead for seriously no reason. Like, once again, in context of the information that they have, especially now with Tristan informing them that there was an ally who got the dragon piece of the Coffin of Eternal Darkness, there is no reason to strike Percival down. The only reasonable assumption you had was disproved. Why don't you just take the darkness off his head? Why don't you and I honestly, if I was Percy here, like once I recover, right? Once I return from my death state, I'll call, like, typically Percy's magic is called Hope, so I'll call him Despair Percy, essentially. Like, you know how you have Supersonic? This is Dark Sonic. Once he recovers from this state, I would have forgive Tristan, like, at all. Like, notably, I thought Tristan was going to come in and, like, handle the situation better than his own crew did, because his own crew seemed to, like, they're inexperienced. Meanwhile, Tristan, I thought he'd have a better grasp on the scenario, but he seems just as quick to rush to conclusions. And I get it, as people have been saying, this is a wartime scenario, right? If you take the time to ask questions, people could get killed. But realize, Tristan, the only crime Tristan committed, help me, Nakaba, why did you fake me out for so long? The only crime that Percival committed was having a piece of the Coffin of Eternal Darkness. And that one crime was just recently absolved to not be a crime. So the only pretense that your squad had for attacking this individual and his friends and literally mauling them is now gone. Why would you take the risk of murdering a possible ally? I just don't get Tristan's thought process here. Him and his whole group seem stupid. Like, not gonna lie, Lancelot up right now in terms of in terms of color designs, overall character, and just common sense. Lancelot up right now. Speaking of, where is he? He didn't sense any, like, I'll give him a pass for just Tristan walking up, right? Like, I will let that slide. But you're telling me, Lance, upon sensing and seeing, like, that's easily got to be seen throughout all of Leonis. There's no way Twinkling Star was such a small scale attack that Lancelot wouldn't notice. Bro, where are you? You can blitz pretty much everyone here. So you, except for maybe Tristan, obviously. But, like, you didn't immediately rush over and be like, hey, yo, calm down. This is not the time. Like, come on now. That was a little bit strange. But we get to see that the squad has stood up for Percival, right? Quite literally. They're standing once Kion and Tristan decide, like, you know what? It'd be like that when it'd be like that sometimes. I guess it's just time to commit a homicide. They stand up to defend him. And shout out to this squad. Like, for a squad that has been through, like, it's weird to say they've been through so much, yet so little. Like, in terms of time frame, it's been like 2 weeks since they got together. And joined at best, like, I want to say a week ago, but really, they've only gone to sleep like twice, I think. So it's probably less than that. So for a squad that's been this recent, for them to be willing to risk their lives like this, like, they were there. They saw what just happened to them. Obviously, they experienced that. And they just saw what Tristan did to Percival. Casually. Like, he took no damage from their interaction. So it would make sense for them to be fearing for their lives right now. Like, this act of defiance could literally get them killed, as seen these people don't think too much, so they readily just kill them. But the bond and the hope that Percival provides them is so strong that they're willing to risk their lives. Like, notably, Anne's sword hand, at least I think. Yeah, well, she's holding her arm, so maybe it's her other hand. But I think she does fight with the hand that's charred and burnt right now. So her bloodied up hand, she doesn't even have a weapon. Nasians can't even begin to stand to his feet. All Donnie has is a palm raise. These people are willing to risk their lives without the ability to fight back in order to keep Percival alive. And that is... See, you think it wouldn't hit, but like 55 chapters deep, it hits. It hits. I respect. That was a build up and a panel that only worked after this long. So shout outs to you, Nakba. That was clean. That was clean. And it's great. Like, Tristan, you aren't normal, dog. like Tristan is like, you're in mortal danger. Leave here at once. The boy is simply not normal. Says the human goddess demon hybrid that just spawned bird wings. It's like, once again, this goes into the whole magic is normal. I mean, of course he like killed, like he just took off a dude's entire arm, but there are magics that can do that. Like, one of the woman on your squad literally can inject explosion magic into objects by hitting them. One dude was controlling a sylph. I don't even know what that is. The other dude can cast darkness spells on people and cover their heads. Like, in terms of danger, I'd say the explosion girl is a bit more dangerous than Percival right now. At least Percival isn't swinging, right? I mean, he swung for Kion. That's because Kion put his hands on him and supposedly killed all his friends. Like, I can't even... Let me see. Hold on. I'm going to do the same thing I tried to do last chapter. I'm going to put myself in Tristan's world, right? Let me sync up with him. All right. I just got back from gathering one of the 4 Knights of the Apocalypse. This Knight of the Apocalypse has to be decently powerful, so I wouldn't have identified them as one of the 4 Knights of the Apocalypse. So, and they must have out their magic. Me and my brother from another mother, Lancelot, both have extremely strange magics and are hybrids of sorts. So our magic is already very unique, and we're very likely outside of the norm. On top of that, I know, based on information given to me from a trustworthy source, that the being that now is in possession of Dragon Handle is an ally. And then I come across my squad committing harm to said ally and his entire group of friends. My immediate next move, due to the nature of the situation, is to assist the group that is the ally of the person who wields Dragon Handle, which makes sense. I tell my own comrade to remove the sylph from them so they don't die. And then my next immediate response is to try and... like, once again, I get it, but Tristan, bro. You see Kion antagonizing him. Like, it's not even like Tristan's very far away when Kion does the whole, didn't quite get you, too bad, you're luckier than I thought. Like, it's not like Tristan is miles upon miles away, so he can't hear that. But he sees all the damage that Percival did to his... Like, no, that Tristan's squad did to his friends. Like, Percival's friends are on the ground, choking, unable to speak, and dying from the attack of his own squadron. And then because one of his people antagonizes Percival, and Percival retaliates via defending himself. Well, I mean, you can argue it's not self-defense, but still, Percival can't see anything right now. So everything, he's literally been in nothing but a combat scenario up to this point. So he doesn't know anything other than, a hand I don't recognize, let me defend myself. He defends himself. And Tristan's first response is, once again, when threatened, like, notably, Percival doesn't know what's going to happen when the darkness is removed from his head. Like, he straight up doesn't know if he'll die or anything. He's still in a combat scenario. So, I get it. Tristan, you want to save your own dude from getting his neck aged to oblivion. So, you kick Percival away. I get that. But him... he's only attacking you once again because Percy's acting in purely self-defense here. I don't know. Maybe it's just because I'm biased. I'm mad biased towards Percival. But in this scenario, even while he's on demon time, like while he's speaking like this, I still wouldn't leap to kill him. I just subdue him, especially if I'm as powerful as Tristan is portrayed to be here. Once again, taking no damage from any of Percival's strikes, I would just hold him down. I wouldn't suddenly decide to kill him, especially if one of my men is suspiciously determining that I should kill him, even though by my own knowledge he's supposed to be an ally. Like, what? I don't know. Tristan's thought process doesn't make sense to you. He's kind of stupid. But, of course, we get to see that when Tristan declares that the boy's not normal and that's the reason they should get away from him, even though you're not normal, Tristan, you little hypocrite. I'll smack you in your golden locks. Well, your silver locks. But then we get to see that to that provocation, and walks up to Percival and hugs him and is like, hey, whether or not he's normal, he's that young boy Percy. And thusly, we are right here, and we'll never let you be alone. And man, I'm not gonna lie, like it brought a tear to my eye. Like it didn't, but still, it's very nice that they send that message to him, right? Now seeing a knee crawl too, so I know his knee's hurting. So he went right over to Percival. They both gave him a hug, and we see that with the realization that his friends are now alive, Percy is chilling out. Like as Tristan notes, his magic ways are stabilizing. Oh, whoop-de-doo. Now that he knows his friends are alive, he's not going to kill you all in retaliation. Shocking. And finally, they're allowed to get a word out. And Donnie's like, you call yourselves Holy Knights of Leonis? This is Percival, the Knight of the Apocalypse your king invited here. And like, Jade and Isolde act like they're shocked, like Percy wasn't trying to tell them this throughout the entirety of their encounter. That's why I hate them. Like, and the thing is, like, I love idiots. That's the weird thing. I love idiots in anime. Sure, they're not some of my favorite characters, but still, like, I usually like them. But I guess it's the aggressive idiots that I don't like. Like, how can you be this stupid? Like, both Jade and Isolde. I get it. Kion reveals that, like, once again, if Kion isn't a traitor, Nakaba really is just playing high levels of basket. He might as well be playing Kuroko no Basket with us. Like, he is straight crossing and breaking our ankles every single time. If Kion doesn't secretly work for Arthur, I don't get it. Because he literally, once that is revealed and they realize how much trouble they're in, because they just almost committed a homicide of one of the keys to victory of their war, Kion goes, oh no, I couldn't get to kill him. And once again, I'm not too mad at Kion, because I'm going under the assumption that Kion is a traitor. So, Kion, he gets a pass solely for the fact that I think he's evil. But for all these supposedly good people, like, this is going to be constantly lingering in the back of my mind. I'm not going to lie. If Isolde and Jade become mainline contemporaries, even Tristan, like, what I know Tristan's going to become a mainline, but if Isolde and Jade become mainlines too, I'm going to be constantly looking at them like, y'all are just stupid. Like, I don't want them to handle these situations ever. And then Tristan finally declares, yo, remove the darkness from him. And we see, once the darkness is removed, he's just crying, like, oh, like their first conscious thought. And to be fair, someone brought up a very good point. They brought up the idea that, well, Percival could be a transformed knight, because we know that Arthur's magic allows you to transform people. But like, look at like, is that the face of someone you want to homicide? Like, is this the one? Is this the guy you really want to get rid of? Is that him? Because it's not to me. I don't know. It seemed too. You see, that's why I'd probably be a terrible soldier, I guess, because I wouldn't be able to kill a 16-year-old who looks like a 5-year-old. It's just not in my blood. I couldn't do it. But I guess our Holy Knights of Leonis, the new generation, they're built for it. They're built for the homicide. And we get to see that Percy, realizing his friends are alive, the chapter ends with his declaration of guys, and he sees all of them alive. And Percy healed them. Tristan, heal them. Both of you have healing magic. Please help them out. They are on the verge. I'm not sure the verge of what, but they're on the verge. So please help them. But there we go. That is the end of the chapter. Overall, for a chapter that gave me something I've been waiting for a long time, which is the whole... It's good to see Knight v Knight. I always appreciate that. I love it when two characters within a unified group fight. Even if it's for... see, that's the thing, though. The only thing that holds this chapter back is Tristan's reactions. I don't think he reacted appropriately, especially for someone of his stature, his status, and his knowledge. I can't give Isolde a pass. I legitimately cannot. I will never give Isolde a pass for trying to crush the family jewels of a 5-year-old, because that's what it looks like. That's what Tristan looks like. That's what Percival looks like. Cannot give her a pass for that. But I will give Jade a pass, because he's just following the assumption of his friends, and he doesn't seem too bright all himself. So obviously Kion seems to be the mind of the group when Tristan's not there. But for Tristan to pull up and decide that after an interaction where it seems like Percy's simply acting in self-defense and despair, I can't give Tristan the pass for suddenly saying, you know what? Guess I'll kill him. Even though everything in Tristan's mind up to that point should have led to the opposite. Like, it shouldn't be, whoa, let me calm him down. Let me restrain him at most restrain him. And get him to get the darkness off his head so he can actually see things, you know? Maybe that would help the scenario, saving the ally, but other than that, this chapter's fire. Like, I'm not gonna lie, seeing Tristan in action, very, very cool. Though it still does make me wonder, because the only darkness spawning we get to see him do is the one dark sword. So I'm hoping we get to see more of that. It's cool to see his wings out. It's cool to see Percy diving into a new side of his power. Like I said, the death or despair side. I will hold off on my little theory. And to be fair, it isn't my theory originally. I believe someone mentioned it in one of the past comment sections. So I'll see if I can find their comment when I go to do the video. But I have a little theory now. This chapter has awoken 2 theories in me, and I'm excited to talk about those. So overall, I'll give the chapter a 7 out of 10. Right? Like, I want to give it higher. See, the thing is, not even on an enjoyment factor, because like even on the first read, I was like, Tristan, what are you doing? So that's the thing. Like, sometimes I'll read a chapter and be like, yeah, hype all the way throughout. But then sometimes I'll be reading it and be like, yo, what the heck? Like, even if on a mindless context it would be cool, when I'm reading for the first time, which usually is mindless, I'm still like, what are you doing? And that's this chapter's case, where like I'm just questioning Tristan's actions. I'm questioning the actions of everyone on Tristan's side except Kion, because Kion's evil. So I'll give it a 9 out of 10, right? I'm going to tackle point off for the lack of common sense, because the rest of the chapter is just too hype for me to ignore. However, those are my thoughts on the chapter. Please leave me your thoughts on the chapter in the comment section down below. Thank you guys so much for watching. Remember to like, share, comment, and subscribe, and make sure that little notification bell so you miss out on any videos that come to the channel. Also, I do have a Patreon down below where you can support me for as low as $1 a month. Any support would be appreciated. Thank you so much for watching once again, and I hope you guys have a wonderful day. This is That Guy with the Pencil, writing off.